Why some people don't like celebrating their birthday. Birthdays are usually described as moments of joy, gratitude, and celebration, days when a person is supposed to feel special, loved, and appreciated, yet for a surprisingly large number of people this date brings completely different emotions that are rarely spoken about openly because they don't fit the social narrative of happiness. For many, the approach of a birthday does not bring excitement, but a quiet inattention, a feeling of heaviness, or even a subtle wish that the day would pass unnoticed, without calls, messages, expectations, or forced smiles, and this reaction often confuses both the person experiencing it and those around them. Have you ever noticed how society teaches us that birthdays must be celebrated in a certain way, with enthusiasm, gratitude, and visible joy, as if there is a correct emotional response that everyone is expected to perform, regardless of what they actually feel inside? A birthday is not just a calendar date, it is a psychological checkpoint, a moment when many people unconsciously evaluate their lives, asking themselves difficult questions about time, choices, relationships, achievements, and missed opportunities, questions that usually remain hidden beneath daily routines. Take, for example, a 56-year-old man named Michael, who quietly avoids celebrating his birthday every year, not because he dislikes people, but because this day reminds him of the career he once dreamed of but never pursued, the marriage that ended years ago, and the version of himself he thought he would become by this age. For Michael, celebration feels dishonest, because reflection comes first. Now ask yourself honestly, when your birthday approaches, do you feel joy, or do you feel reflection taking over before celebration even has a chance to appear? Many people struggle with the pressure to perform happiness on their birthday, answering messages politely, smiling at gatherings, and expressing gratitude even when their inner emotional state does not align with what is expected of them, and this emotional dissonance can feel exhausting rather than uplifting. This pressure is especially heavy for introverted, sensitive, or emotionally introspective individuals, for whom attention does not feel energizing, but draining, turning birthdays into emotionally demanding events rather than moments of rest or joy. Childhood experiences play a powerful role in shaping these reactions, because early birthdays often teach us what this day means emotionally, and for some, those early lessons were filled with disappointment, neglect, family conflict, or unmet expectations. Consider a woman named Anna, now 34 years old, who grew up in a household where birthdays were often forgotten or overshadowed by stress and arguments, and although her adult life is stable and loving, her body still associates birthdays with emotional insecurity rather than celebration, creating an automatic desire to withdraw when the day approaches. Have you ever noticed how your body reacts to certain dates, even when your mind tells you that everything is fine? Loneliness is another important factor, because birthdays amplify absence in a way few other days do, making the lack of meaningful connection feel louder, more personal, and more painful, especially when expectations quietly grow in the background. On ordinary days, silence is tolerable, but on birthdays it can feel like a reflection of one's worth, which is why some people choose to avoid celebrating altogether, deciding that it hurts less to expect nothing than to hope and be disappointed. Avoidance, in this sense, becomes a form of emotional self-protection, not rejection of life, but a way to maintain control over one's inner emotional balance. Before moving forward, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what does your birthday really represent to you, beyond cake, messages, and traditions? the deeper psychology behind avoiding birthdays. As people grow older, birthdays often become symbols of time passing, not only in terms of age, but in relation to physical changes, shifting priorities, unresolved goals, and the awareness that life does not always unfold according to expectations, which can bring quiet grief beneath the surface. In cultures that emphasize youth, productivity, and visible success, birthdays can feel like unspoken evaluations, moments when people measure themselves against social timelines, asking whether they are ahead, behind, or completely off track. Take the example of Sarah, a 29-year-old woman who avoids birthday celebrations because each year reminds her that she has not yet built the life she imagined in her early 20s, and while she functions well in daily life, her birthday intensifies feelings of self-doubt that she otherwise manages to keep under control. Have you ever felt that birthdays magnify thoughts you usually manage to silence? For some individuals, avoiding birthdays is not rooted in sadness, but in a deep preference for privacy and emotional autonomy, as they value internal experiences over public rituals and feel uncomfortable turning personal emotions into social performances. These people often prefer meaningful conversations, quiet reflection, or intimate moments with one trusted person, rather than large gatherings, and their decision not to celebrate becomes an act of self-awareness rather than withdrawal. Birthdays also trigger questions of identity, forcing people to confront who they are now, how they have changed, and whether they feel aligned with their authentic selves, questions that rarely coexist comfortably with festive expectations. Rather than forcing joy, some individuals choose emotional honesty, allowing themselves to experience whatever emotions arise without judgment, understanding that gratitude and sadness can coexist, and that not every meaningful moment needs to look happy from the outside. Avoiding birthdays can also be a subtle form of self-care, especially for those who are emotionally aware and sensitive to overstimulation, choosing calm over chaos, authenticity over obligation. If you are someone who keeps your birthday quiet, it does not mean you reject life or happiness, it often means you are listening to yourself, honoring your emotional needs, and refusing to perform emotions you do not genuinely feel. Let me ask you one final question. What would happen if we allowed people to experience their birthdays in ways that truly reflect who they are, without judgment or expectation? If this video resonated with you, if it made you feel understood or less alone in your experience, please support this channel by liking the video and subscribing, because these small actions help thoughtful conversations reach those who may need them most. Thank you for staying until the end, for listening, and for allowing yourself this moment of reflection, and I hope to see you again in the next video.